Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're going to focus on the sales menu, and we'll start off by creating a sales order. Clicking on the New button takes us to the starting screen. Here we can select a company. So in this instance, we've chosen Charles University, and all this information is defaulted in at the top, including, you will notice, the VAT treatment and the exchange rates. All very helpful. Those can be overridden if required. Next, we're going to add a product code. So let's take a Tritech Solutions. We'll add quantity, change that. It's got a price on it. We'll give a 5% discount, and that's got a nominal code type sales B, which comes in from the account and with a tax rate already registered to it. We can classify that to an analysis code and to a department. Let's add another line. So let's add working from home. Very appropriate at the time of making this video. And we'll put that doesn't seem to have a price on it at the moment, so we'll add a price for that, and we'll give that a 10% discount. So as you can see, entering an invoice is it's really quite straightforward. Now we don't need that extra line, so we're going to delete that. So now once we finish with it, we save, and that now has been successfully saved. But that was just a sales order. So let's now convert that into a sales invoice. So we go to the Convert to Sales Invoice button, and this now generates an invoice, 0064. And if we go here to the hyperlink, we can go to that invoice. Now that invoice hasn't been posted yet, and you can tell that here because the invoice status is draft. So let's post it and see what happens. So that's now successfully posted. Now in an accounting system, what that does is it generates ledger entries, and we can see the ledger entries that have been generated here. So these are from a sales invoice transaction, and we've gone debit accounts receivable, credit sales, and the same here. And each line of the invoice has its own postings, and that's called Unified Accounting Ledger System. Now that we've created an invoice, let's pay it. And in doing so, we'll change the exchange rate so that we generate a gain or loss. Now when we look at the ledger entries, we can see the original sales invoice postings that we saw before, plus the sales payments, plus the sales loss that we just generated. We can also look at the payment history. If we click here, we can see the payment that we just generated in the euro currency. And if we wanted to send a remittance advice, this is how we would do it. So here we would create a PDF. For that remittance, the date and the invoice that it's paying. And if we wanted to email the PDF, we just simply press the PDF button, add a subject and a brief message, and we can send it. So that's been done. Next, I'd like to show you how to create a sales credit note. Now you can do this in two ways. Firstly, you can create the credit note independently using the New button on the sales credit menu, and that works just the same way as the sales invoices that we just saw. Alternatively, and often more conveniently, you can actually create the credit note from the invoice itself. So we're going to select sales invoice number 60. This brings up the details of the invoice, and you can see that there's an amount outstanding on it of £10,000. Let's create a credit note against it. Now you can see there that the credit note has been created. Now we're not going to credit the whole invoice, we're just going to credit the Tritech Solutions line. So we delete the other two lines. And now we have a credit note for £2,600. We save that, and that's been saved. And then we need to post it. So let's post it. Now we want to allocate that credit note against the invoice that we just generated it from, which was invoice number 60. Beg your pardon, it was this invoice. So we've allocated that all against it. There's nothing remaining to credit. And there we go. That's now being credited against that invoice. And if we look at the allocation history here, we can see the invoice that it's gone against. And here you can see that it's been reduced down by that amount. So it's now partially paid. In some businesses, they receive sales payments on account. That's to say, an amount of money which doesn't have an invoice against it. So that's called a sales payment on account. We create those here under the sales payment account menu. And we create new, and let's say we've taken a deposit from the University of Perpignan in their normal currency, etc. And we put in a prepayment. And we put in the price, let's call it €1,000, and we select which bank account it's gone into. We can add analysis codes if required, and we save it. And again, we have to post it, because that's still in draft. Once it's been posted, it can be allocated in exactly the same way as a credit note when an invoice is raised. Finally, I'd just like to show you the sales payment and sales refunds. These list down the sales payments that you received from customers, in this instance against your invoices, or refunds that you've made on credit notes or on a payment on account. So that concludes the first part of the sales training. Good luck with the quiz.